And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
It gets worse. Just this week, Michelle Bachmann actually predicted that I would bring about the biblical end of days. Now that's a legacy. I mean, Lincoln, Washington, they didn't do that.
Jesus Christ would not vote for Barack Obama. Jesus Christ would not vote for Barack Obama. Christ would not vote for Barack Obama because Barack Obama has behaved in a way that is inconceivable for Christ to have behaved. Jesus Christ would not vote for Barack Obama. He supports a lifestyle that the Bible calls an abomination. Mr. Obama says he's a Christian, but he supports the destruction of innocent and sacred.
Und ich schwöre hier, so wie wir und so wie ich in dieses Amt eintrat, so will ich dann gehen. Ich tat es nicht um Gehalt und nicht um Lohn. Ich tat es um deiner selbst wegen.
You might ask, how could a Christian nation, almost 100% Catholic, to elect a monster like Hitler? The truth is, at the beginning, Hitler didn't look like or talk like a monster at all. He talked like an American politician.
And we've seen Obama really come into his own, really grow into maturity as a dictator. He said many times at the beginning of the year that he was just the president, that we had divided powers. He said 22 times that he didn't have the authority to just make law. But by the end of the year, he was telling his friends, I changed the law for you.
I know some people want me to bypass Congress and change the laws on my own. And believe me, right now dealing with Congress, the idea of doing things on my own is very tempting. What you're not paying attention to is the fact that I just took an action to change the law. Now,
no, Obama can't do that. He can't violate congressional law because he feels like it, like he's on the border, and guns and power plants.
But it's this image that has folks talking. It's a picture of Adolf Hitler and the symbol of communism, a hammer and sickle. The words read, Comrade Obama.
Adolf Hitler was the president, was the head of the National Socialist Party in Germany. So there is a connection between President Obama's leaning, very well-documented leanings towards socialism.
One-time Alaskan Governor Sarah Palin has solidified her status as the leader of the radical right wing, likening President Obama to Adolf Hitler. In a tweet Thursday, Palin endorsed an article by conservative columnist Thomas Sowell, which argues that Obama's establishment of a BP escrow fund would result in the administration embracing Nazi-like dictatorial powers.
Georgia Republican Congressman Paul Brown says he fears President-elect Obama could establish a Marxist dictatorship. Brown said in an interview Monday, quote, it may sound a bit crazy and off base, but he's the one who's proposed this national security force. That's exactly what Hitler did in Nazi Germany. It's exactly what the Soviet Union did. He's showing me signs of being Marxist. You have to remember that Adolf Hitler was elected in a democratic Germany, end quote, Paul Brown.
Watch for Peyton to speak to the nation as a president of the United States would speak to the nation tonight and tell them, I am the dictator. I am the dictator. I am the one that's going to take care of everything.
That Obama, his powers are so unprecedented that even congressmen now are saying Obama is enacting dictatorial powers by saying that, yes, I'll follow some laws, but overall, I'll do anything I want. He has already used dictator-style powers to go ahead and do anything he wants.
He's no longer a U.S. president. He is now a dictator. We are now a transnational union. And unfortunately, as of today, Obama is now a dictator.
Down to, I believe, worldview and ideology. What is the worldview that you hold? We see that Barack Obama has probably one of the most radical ideologies of anyone ever to occupy the White House. He embraces the ideas of an economic Marxist who believes in full-on redistribution of wealth. But he also embraces the worldview when it comes to foreign policy of essentially a one-world government point of view, where he is not as concerned about United States sovereignty. He's very willing to see the United States power flow into world organizations.
Absolute power, which is as corrupt as it ever gets. In studying dictatorships, which I've done since I'm about 18 years old, I've never heard a dictator say he's doing anything illegally. Never. Even Hitler said that everything he did was within the law. Did you know that? I mean, our National Action Network president, Barack Hussein Obama, said he's going to act within the law. Mussolini said he was acting within the law when he violated the law. Hitler said he was acting within the law when he needed some living space for the Germans, Lebensraum. He wasn't invading Czechoslovakia because he wanted to conquer Czechoslovakia. He said he had the legal right to engage in getting some living space for the German people. That's all. Everything's legal. Pol Pot did it legally.
So dictatorship didn't happen overnight. It took 5 years, gradually, little by little, to escalate up to a dictatorship.
The Obamacare is a horribly, horribly written law. And as much as President Obama believes he can do whatever he wants, the Constitution says otherwise. Government.
When did Obama assert that he could do whatever he wants?
He's rewritten 30 or 40 different parts of Obamacare by administration action.
George W. Bush did the exact same thing with Medicare Part D.
No, he did not.
The exact same thing.
Change laws.
This is something we ought to be really, really troubled about, don't you think?
You are exactly right. It is one of the most profoundly troubling aspects of the Obama administration is the degree to which this is a lawless administration. We've never seen a president who picks and chooses the way this president does.
This is entirely lawless. And the fact that nobody is talking about this, the executive executes the laws. As you say, this is another example of Obama rewriting a law unilaterally, and nobody is complaining.
Understand, President Obama cannot legally do what he proposed to do yesterday, and the media let him get away with claiming. He can't fix part of a law that he doesn't like by fiat. Our president is not a king,
If Congress won't act soon to protect future generations, I will. I will direct my cabinet to come up with executive actions we can take now and in the future to reduce pollution, prepare our communities for the consequences of climate change, and speed the transition to more sustainable sources of energy.
Has often protested that his plans for conquest do not extend across the Atlantic Ocean, but his submarines and raiders prove otherwise. And so does the entire design of his new world order. For example, I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the new world order.
President Obama calling for a new world order.
Well, there have been extraordinary scenes in Berlin tonight as thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. The Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in a new world order, saying he was speaking as a proud citizen of the United States.
In creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build.
This, as the president pledged to shape, quote, a new international order.
President Obama called for a new U.S. role on the world stage.
So we have to shape an international order that can meet the challenges of our generation. The international order we seek is one that can resolve the challenges of our times.
But Kissinger says they are preparing Obama to create this new world order. Now, I have a lot of stock in what Kissinger says because he's a member of this secret society, the Bilderbergs. Here is Blair and Brown, the Prime Minister of England, saying we want Obama to go and have a part in the peace process. And you see, he comes in peaceably, Daniel 11:21, enters in peaceably, Daniel 11:24.
Hitler was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1939. He was nominated by Brandt, a member of the Swedish Parliament. The man was a dedicated anti-fascist, and he made the nomination
on the job, and he's now a Nobel laureate. In a ceremony at Oslo City Hall, President Barack Obama joined the exalted company of Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa. He was cited for re-engaging America in global diplomacy. Yet his Peace Prize came days after he ordered thousands more troops to war in Afghanistan.
This is a little frightening, and the title is Obama, First U.S. President to Chair UN Security Council. Some unprecedented news, folks. Never in the history of the United Nations has a U.S. President taken the chairmanship of the powerful UN Security Council. Perhaps it is because of what could arguably be a constitutional prohibition against doing so. Constitution be damned. Barack Hussein Obama has decided to put himself in the driver's seat.
We know the president can refuse to defend the constitutionality of a statute, even one that he signs into law. Mr. Speaker, that is a lot of power. What are we to do when that amount of power is not enough?
Do you not see what this is? He's setting himself up at the top of the pile of the New World Order. New World Order. That's what this is. This has never happened in the history of the United Nations.
Barack Obama is the first president to chair the UN Security Council. That by chairing that meeting, which is unconstitutional and against the law, Barack Obama is literally in charge of all the armies that are associated with the United Nations. Consider that.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide. Let's face it, there is one issue on every reporter's minds, and that is 2016. Apparently, some folks really want to see a pot-smoking socialist in the White House. We could get a third Obama term after all.
It's coming to Cleveland, run for the damn hills! And that's why we're running for a third term!
No, we're not.
We're not?
No.
Who the hell said that?
Hello?
Hey, this is Barack. Listen, I need to know if you're on board.
Well, yes, I guess I could.
Because I'm counting on you.
I could try to help.
Because I'm counting on you.
Of course, I will do anything to help.
Okay, good.
It all comes down to you now. It all comes down to you now.
I'm not running for Barack Obama's third term. I'm not running for Barack Obama's third term.
If you look at people who ran for president for 3 terms, it's Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Obama. And they all had certain things in common. They are all populist. They all spent a lot of money on people. But enormous power for Obama. Of course, he's going to use that power and all that leverage to propel himself into a third term.
A man trying to come to terms, it seems, with the constitutional reality that, well, he can only have 2 terms.
I love my work. But under our Constitution, I cannot run again. I can't run again. I actually think I'm a pretty good president. I think if I ran, I could win. But I can't.
Well, I'm a little confused about where the laughter came and where the support really was. But first, I'm a little disturbed that our president found it necessary to say 3 times that he can't run again. But his most frightening statement today, his claim that he could win a 3rd term. Why is it so frightening? Because it's so much closer to the truth than anything else he said today.
And for the president to come down and use this argument he's used that basically, look, if you don't change the law, I have a right to break the law, what's he going to do next? Is he going to say, I want a third term, and if Congress and the American people don't change the law, I'm going to declare martial law and just use that as a justification?
Well, we see Barack Hussein Obama may be getting his third term. Obama would become the first president since Franklin D. Roosevelt to seek a third term, and don't think this power-hungry dictator won't try this, even though this bastard has failed miserably. Since Hillary is damaged goods, maybe the Democrats and these flaming liberals just may try this. He has no intention on trying to stop the debt because that's not his what he came in office to do. He came in office to help destroy America, help destroy the dollar, and he's doing a fine job at doing that. And this idiot wants to get him for a third term. This man may be suicidal. It's up to us, the people, to get Barack Obama out of office because we have no representation in this country. And any idiot who's advocating a third term for Barack Obama needs to be locked up and institutionalized.
We could get a third Obama term after all. You think I'm joking?
What has God shown you that will happen in the future?
He showed me that if Christians don't start praying more than they ever have, even the churches become the house of prayer, this next election,
presidential election
is not going to take place, that it's going to be suspended because evil's going to arise and some disasters are going to happen and some things are going to be put in place and the president's not going to be removed. He's going to stay in, and these things are going to happen and they're going to be very bad if we don't get a hold of God.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will.
The President of the United States. The President of the United States.
And will.
Also, education was nationalized very quickly, literally overnight.
We are no longer a Christian nation. We are no longer a Christian nation. We do not consider ourselves a Christian nation.
Park Lakes Elementary on April 8th, this fifth grader pulled out chosen material for free reading time.
Then she said, Giovanni, what book is that?
That's when he says the teacher asked him twice to put the Bible on her desk, and he refused.
The student says it's unfair. He was talking about religion in class, while other students were talking about sex and drugs, and he was the one sent to the principal's office.
A Kansas 7th grader banned from handing out event flyers at school because her flyers contained some Bible verses. Meanwhile, the school is fine with posters about dead rappers and drugs, but not a flyer that includes a Bible verse.
But surely, this is not a fascist takeover of our educational system, is it? If that were the case, America would have to be living under a de facto fascist dictatorship. Unfortunately, that is exactly what we are living under. Obama has altogether dispensed with the rule of law, proclaiming often that if Congress won't act, I will. Obama has all but dissolved the legislative branch of the United States. We are living under a fascist dictatorship. How then does Common Core fit into the Obama dictatorship? Lenin famously said, "Give me just one generation of youth and I'll transform the whole world."
Now let's see what happens to one of Hitler's children. Kindergarten, and little Hans learns the fairy tales of the new order, the new order, the new order. The distortion of this tale has its purpose in molding the young Nazi mind. Hitler becomes Hans's idol.
Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next engineer.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next fireman.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next architect.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next chemical engineer.
Because of Obama, I'm inspired to be the next entrepreneur.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Obama speaks on race in America. Yes, we can. Embrace burdens of our past, now become the victims of our past. Yes, we can. Take more responsibility for our own lives. Yes, we can.
Well, some parents of elementary school students in Burlington, New Jersey are outraged to see video of their children singing a Christian spiritual song where the name of Jesus was substituted with President Obama's.
There's definitely a controversy here on both sides. Some parents are saying that it was absolutely inappropriate to substitute the words of that spiritual song with Barack Hussein Obama.
I felt that it was reminiscent of 1930s Germany and the indoctrination of children to worship their leader.
That all stopped overnight. I walked into my classroom March 13, 1938. The crucifix was gone, and there was Hitler's picture with the Nazi flag on each side. And our teacher said, today we don't pray anymore. We sing Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, the national anthem. And she said, we don't have religious education anymore either.
Hans is now ready for the higher education, as decreed by the Fuhrer.
We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em. We're gonna change it. Now's the moment where his voice to sing. Sing with all your heart. For our children, for our families. Nations all join as one. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. With each other. Yes, we can. With each other. Yes, we can. With each other. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And rearrange it. We're gonna change the world.
This is exactly what the Hitler Youth were engaged in under the Nazi regime. Still thinking we're not living under a de facto fascist dictatorship? Think again.
He also nationalized our healthcare system. We had, before Hitler, an excellent healthcare system, privately insured. We had good doctors, we had good hospitals, we had a lot of good research. That all stopped.
Well, angry town halls are taking an ugly turn with references to so-called Nazi policies and pictures portraying President Obama as Adolf Hitler.
Suzanne, have you noticed all the talk about Hitler and healthcare reform lately? Every so often, someone compares the reform plans to Hitler's extermination policies or brands President Obama or his political allies as Nazis.
Why do you continue to support a Nazi policy, as Obama has expressly supported this policy? Why are you supporting it?
President's broken health care promise becomes labeled the lie of the year. The winner for what they call the lie of the year.
First of all, if you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan. Nobody is talking about taking that away from you. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. Period. If you like your health care plan, you can keep that too. If you like your current insurance, you keep that insurance. Period. Period. Period.
End of story.
Was he intentionally misleading, or was there some argument that he was grossly mistaken?
Could Hitler's horrible deeds that he did be ready to be repeated? Could that be? Could it be? I have had 3 Jewish women in their late 80s, all that were Holocaust survivors. One was 5 years old when she personally met Hitler. He came out of the truck, out of his security vehicle, walked up to her, put his hand on her and said, "What a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan girl." And she was Jewish. She accepted the Lord. And these 3 women said to me on 3 different occasions, now this has happened, Sid, the past 3 years. It's 1933 all over again, and America can't see it. The Nazi Party took over the banking system. They took over all regulations. They regulated what you could eat. They regulated the type of table you had to have in a restaurant. They took over the healthcare system. Germany had great healthcare until Hitler socialized it. And they went through 15 things, and I can't go through all of those, of course, but they went through, these are women who survived the Holocaust. They went through 15 things that, Sid, it would blow your mind. All 15 are happening right now in the United States.
We also had gun registration. Oh, the Austrian people they all had guns. But the government said the guns are very dangerous. Children are playing with guns, hunting accidents happen, and we really have to have total control, safety. And we had criminals again. And the only way that we can trace the criminal was by the serial number of the gun. So we dutifully went to the police station and we registered our guns. Not long after, they said, no, it didn't help. The only way that we don't have accidents and crimes, you bring the guns to the police station, and then we don't have any crimes anymore and any accidents. And if you don't do that, capital punishment.
Titled UN Gun Grab Follows State Department Plan. This is going to get scary. The UN Arms Trade Treaty that has been identified by observers as a flagrant threat to the Second Amendment, in which Barack Obama is determined to sign, has its roots in a 1961, you hear that, 1961 State Department memorandum, which explains how the United Nations will oversee complete disarmament of all the people under the ruse of preventing war. Are you hearing me? That's what they're talking about. They're going to take your guns under the ruse of preventing war.
This is a president playing God. This is what the UN and Bilderberg and all this is about, is the new royalty saying they have diplomatic immunity, they are above the law. No, you are not above the law.
Look what's going on while no one's paying attention. Now, years ago, we spoke about the gun control hidden in Obamacare. Guess what? Quietly, while no one's paying attention, Obama has signed executive orders for 2 new gun control laws.
President saying he's above the law, saying he can open the borders if he wants, he can change laws, he can sign executive orders to restrict power plants or sign executive orders to go after guns. This is tyranny.
When the people fear the government, that's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, that's you, the Tea Party. That's liberty. Keep your guns. Keep your guns and buy more guns. America is still a Christian nation, no matter what Obama says. I am an optimist. God is still on the throne.
But you don't have that much time to take away Americans' guns, declare martial law, and put hardworking Americans in FEMA camps. If you're going to do that, you better get started. You better get started.
Yesterday, President Obama signed an executive order claiming the right to incarcerate persons in the Guantanamo Bay military prison for the duration of their natural lives, even after acquittal. You heard that correctly, after acquittal. Following upon President Bush, President Obama has claimed the power to punish people even after a jury has found them not guilty. No Western government has ever claimed the power to do this. Not the King of England, not Hitler, not Stalin, not even the Russian and Chinese communists.
President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention.
I have decided we really need camps for adults. And we need the kind of camps that you all run. I mean, really.
Indefinite detention without trial. That's what this is. That's what President Obama proposed today. And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech.
People generally forget the mistakes of the past. Citizens who were caught up in Hitler's Nazi Germany hardly noticed the gradual development of extremism, mainly due to high emotions and dazzling propaganda. But history often repeats itself. FEMA plastic coffins, detention centres, armoured checkpoints and armoured military vehicles for civil purposes are well-documented facts. For the United States military claims stores of guillotines located in Fort Lewis military facility. The latest revelation of Obamacare sanctions death by guillotine, code ICD 9E978. However, Obama was only following...
Obamacare is full of endless surprises. Yeah, you want to go Google Obamacare ICD-9. Yeah, that's one of the many hidden treasures within Obamacare. And what ICD-9 is all about, it's the code that confirms execution by beheading. Yeah, that's within Obamacare. That shouldn't come as any kind of a big surprise to anyone, considering that that's what they do in that part of the world. You know, they cut people's heads off. And Obama is from that part of the world. And that's what he's got built into Obamacare.
The guillotines show that Obamacare is not about American health care. It's about global health care. But it's not really health care. They've got to have some kind of a political structure so as to be able to kill anybody they want to in any nation on earth. They got to get every person on the planet involved, and health care is the best idea that they came up with, because everybody's going to need health care sooner or later. So the guillotines are in there, and we know that the guillotines is implemented by the World Health Organization, which is international office of the United Nations. So this proves doubly that Obamacare has nothing to do about American health care. It has to do about global health care.
They call it a residential center, but it looks a hell of a lot more like a prison to me. Double fences, floodlights, barbed wire to keep people from getting out, and at the main entrance, railroad tracks, just like Nazi Germany.
It's hundreds of thousands, plastic coffins.
So each one of those is a separate coffin stacked on top. There's probably, what, 20 to 25 per stack. And how many stacks? Literally hundreds of them.
And you can fit 4 dead bodies per plastic coffin. It's basically a giant body bag.
Tens of thousands of coffins. Officially, they're plastic grave liners. The bodies would pile up, the military would pile in, and the concentration camp gates would open. So you're telling me there isn't one FEMA camp of these in the United States right now?
There are not.
Why is it in that bill?
What is exactly in the bill?
It talks about building FEMA camps, doesn't it? That particular bill that we're talking about? What's the bill number? 6 FEMA camps to be built within the United States. How can a bill state that there'll be 6 FEMA camps built in the United States, and then I'm being told there are none?
I think those are locations for if there's a disaster like in Katrina. I think that's what it is. It's not any kind of a concentration camp or anything to round up citizens.
Well, we have films of children playing on the swings and the slides and stuff, and this one technically falls under Homeland Security.
Well, I don't know. You know, I haven't been there, and I don't know who the children are, and the children are probably very happy.
Where have we heard that before?
It's the answer spoken by young and old, rich and poor, rich and poor, rich and poor.
And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
But a lot of people don't know that there is the availability now
is to have everybody do away with everybody's health care, put you on government health care, and put a chip. It's called a health care chip with all your information in your right hand, because all the scanners will be right-handed scanners. And so people need to wake up. See, we're sleeping. We're sleeping. And I don't know that America has to go that way. 2009 in the month of May, and the gentleman said, I've got to tell you this, Perry, this just happened to me, this freaked me out. I just flew on a plane with a man who is on the board of the American Medical Association. Do you know what he told me? He said, we got in a conversation, the man's not a Christian. He said that the Obama administration was going to force health care in because they have a chip that's going to be put in the right hand or the forehead of everybody taking the health care system.
The mark of the beast. So many people talk about this being biblical, prophetic, and many people realize that it will probably come in the form of an RFID chip. And I want to show you what it states in this bill. And this is what they've already passed, guys. This is what they've already passed underneath of our noses while no one's paying attention. They have passed the mark of the beast legally. All they have to do is get it in you. This has been hidden in this healthcare, Obamacare bill this whole time. And they have passed all of these smaller bills along the way while no one has been paying attention. This is an urgent warning for everyone out there. Everyone out there that believes that this mark and this tracking system is coming, whether you believe it's biblical or not. It's in my belief, whether you believe in religion or not, it should not stop you from believing the fact that this government wants to tag you and track you. And it's the truth, and it's real, and it's right here in front of you. This is all the evidence you will ever need to know that it's already implemented. All we are waiting for is
about the
an event.
Antichrist. This is the most famous chapter in the whole Bible, Revelation 13, about the Antichrist. Now, in verse 16 to 18 is talking about the mark of the beast. I'm talking about the tattoo. I'm talking about the radio frequency identification tag device of the Obamacare bill. Yes, people are asking me all over the world. They're saying, Daryl, is the mark of the beast, is the Antichrist tracking device inside the Obamacare bill? And I say, yes. Did you hear me? Yes. Obama is the Antichrist. The Obamacare bill is the mark of the beast health care bill. Obama has been chosen to be the dictator over the world, to reign over a one world government, and a one world currency. So this health care Obamacare bill is the foundation to ruling the world. Hitler had health care for everybody. Oh, and how did that work out for everybody? Now look at this. And he, Revelation 13:16, Obama causes all, whether you like it or not, makes all people, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. This is all people on the planet. This is Obama's Obamacare to spread to the planet. This is what he's planning, and this is what's in the bill now. The Obamacare bill, where it states that you and every American and eventually the whole world will be microchipped, will be tracked by some sort of implantable radio frequency device, whether it's a microchip or whether it's an ink. This is the Obamacare bill. Obama has now fulfilled the scriptures in Revelation 13, verses 16 through 18 and other scriptures, where he has now, as the Antichrist, passed a bill. It's to microchip and to cause everybody that takes the mark of the beast to be damned eternally. The Bible says if you take the mark of the beast, you will be worshiping Obama and the devil, the fallen angel Lucifer, and you will be foreverly and eternally damned to hell. Don't take the mark. You're better off to get your head chopped off. What? Head chopped off? Did you know that the guillotines are now ready and prepared around the world and in America? military bases, on the FEMA camps. They have guillotines waiting for those who refuse the mark of the beast. FEMA camps, coffins, FEMA camp guillotines, and you'll go see all the black coffins ready for the people that refuse the mark of the beast, and the guillotines are ready to chop your head off. Yes, it's already in place. The FEMA camps, the concentration camps, over 600 of them are just here in America, but also around the world. And he's going to, the Bible says, cause every person to get the mark of the beast, to track you, to make you worship him, to have control over you. Now, I'm warning you, if you take the mark of the beast, if you take this implanted device, whether it's the computer skin, whether it's the RFID ink, or whether it's the implanted chip, and you join this system, it's the worship of Obama, it's the worship of the Antichrist system, it's the worship of the fallen angel Lucifer. You will be forever damned to the lake of fire where Obama and the false prophet are going when Jesus returns and throws them in.
In this clip, Messiah worship and the Hitler and Obama movements are compared. Self-worship is an occult doctrine, and is an aspect of what has historically been called Luciferianism. Hitler actually imposed a doctrine called positive Christianity on the evangelical churches of the Third Reich, which taught that the Aryan race is God and worship of Hitler as the Messiah.
BDM girls idolized Hitler. For many Germans, Hitler had become a superhuman figure.
On newscasts in almost every country,
welcome to the new world,
Barack Obama has, as one German newspaper put it, resurrected the American dream.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ? Barack Obama. Oh.
Barack Obama. Why just go ahead and worship him? And I think this was the idea behind a new sculpture of Obama as Jesus.
Conservative columnist David Brooks compares Obama to a messiah. He takes the stage and his supporters go wild, cheering, some crying, some shouting, "I love you." Many political observers say they've never seen anything like it. Thousands wait in line to see him. But it's a scene some increasingly find not inspirational, but creepy, cult-like. And it seems with every speech, they always latch on to Obama's 3 favorite words.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. As you say. 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 Yes, we can. Justice and equality.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
As you say.
As you say. As you say. As you say. As you say.
Exactly like God. For me, he was just like God.
He was represented in those days as God. Well, akin to God. And that's how we saw him.
She would approach the children. She would say to each one, "Are you the one? Are you the one? Is he the one?"
Actress Gwyneth Paltrow. She told the president she was, quote, "one of your biggest fans, if not your biggest. You're so handsome, I can't speak properly. It would be wonderful if we were able to give this man all of the power that he needs to pass the things that he needs to pass."
Barack Obama, thank you for doing everything and all the kind stuff. Thank you for all the stuff that you helped us with. Thank you for taking the courage and responsibility for everything you have done for us. And God has gave you a special power. Why then has the health of my poor people not been restored? Here I belong. Here I belong.
giving honor to God and our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. Barack Obama. And our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. Barack Obama.
Es war ein Idol, es war ein halber Gott für uns.
He was our idol. He was a demigod. Nowadays, I know it was madness.
He's the president and he's on fire. Hotter than a fantasy, lonely like a highway. He's living in a world and it's on fire. Filled with catastrophe, but he knows he can fly away. So we gon' let it burn, baby, burn, baby. Oh, Mama's on fire. Oh, Mama's on fire.
As I watch this parade of this emissary, this ambassador from hell himself called Barack Hussein Obama, is trying to bring deception all over the world. And all of the world was watching as Hitler was amassing his power and talking about how he was going to change the world and talking about the things he was going to do about Germany and making her the greatest race and the greatest people that there ever was. And yet no one did a thing. But they watched this man build and amass this power of world domination, and the world that should have been stood by and did nothing. And yet he spoke. And when Hitler stood, the people would come, and you can see, if you go back and look at some of the old newsreels of Hitler's speeches, you'll see the people were standing there in awe. Heil Hitler, they would say. You could see the look on their faces as if they were in some sort of trance, and this man spoke with eloquence, this man spoke with power, this man spoke with determination, and every German fell down at his feet and worshiped him. His idea and design was to take charge of the world. Now I know you see where I'm going with this. And I know you see what's happening. All Barack Hussein Obama needs is a mustache. That's all he needs, and an outstretched right arm. And we are repeating history all over again.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
The bell is ringing here in Rome, the campanone, the big ring. That means one thing, John Allen. What does it mean? It means
Habemus Papam, Chris.
Habemus
We have a
Papam.
pope.
We have
Let's
a pope.
listen in.
Look at that picture. Look at how many people.
I announce to you a great joy. We have a pope.
We believe that the name they said was Bergoglio. Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He is
Pope Francis is Time Magazine's Person of the Year. He was the first Pope from the New World. The New World.
Time magazine have named Pope Francis as their Person of the Year. The publication has credited him with changing
the first Jesuit Pope, the first Pope from the New World, the New World. In one interview, he made it clear he didn't want the Church to be, in his words, obsessed with small-minded rules that have led to so-called culture wars over abortion, gay marriage, and contraception.
Pope Francis is having a pretty good year, wouldn't you say? First, he was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year.
Well, now The Advocate, the country's largest gay and lesbian publication, has named the Pontiff its Person of the Year, signaling what could be a shift between the gay community and the Catholic faith.
Suzanne Kennedy here now with more on that. Suzanne?
Well, Leon and Allison, a decade ago, you probably wouldn't have seen this happen, but today's Pope is very different than his predecessors.
After being named Time Magazine's Man of the Year, the country's oldest gay rights magazine, The Advocate, is now following suit. On a flight last year from Brazil to Rome, the Pope offered a glimpse into his viewpoints on homosexuality, saying, "If someone is gay and seeks the Lord with goodwill, who am I to judge?" The Advocate article says the Pope offers LGBT Catholics who remain in the church more reason to hope that change is coming. That change is coming.
I think it's a great thing. As a Catholic and as a gay man, it's perfect.
Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law. For if we are truly created equal, then surely the love we commit to one another must be equal as well.
Now appears Pope Francis is open to the theories of evolution and the Big Bang. He told a Vatican audience that neither idea conflicts with the idea of creation. He also said, quote, "God is not a magician with a magic wand."
In a direct contradiction of the beliefs of creationists, Francis said that when we read about creation in Genesis, the first book of the Bible, we run the risk of imagining God was a magician with a magic wand able to do everything. But that is not so. The Big Bang does not contradict the creative intervention of God, the Pope said. On the contrary, it requires it.
He said we need to recognize that the Big Bang and evolution are real things.
Good news for all you atheists out there. Jesus is still going to redeem you. During his homily at Wednesday Mass, Pope Francis emphasized the importance of doing good as a...
He thinks that even if you're an atheist, you might get into heaven. And obviously Pope Francis is using it to say, hey, listen, don't worry so much about, is he one of us? Is he a Catholic? Are they following the right dogma? If they do good works, they can get into heaven even if they're not a Catholic.
Pope Francis is now saying you don't have to be a believer, you don't have to believe in God in order to get to heaven. And they are saying allegedly that he's reaching out to atheists and agnostics. And the Pope has struck, I'm reading now from the article that says the Pope has struck a surprisingly conciliatory tone towards atheists and agnostics, saying that God will forgive them as long as they behave morally and live according to their conscience. What a blasphemous statement. That is blasphemy, Pope Francis.
What, based on the prophecies out of the Vatican that were hidden for all these generations, are they anticipating with the final Pope?
Well, the idea among both Catholics and Protestant scholars is that he will be the final Pope. He is the one who is going to be residing over the Vatican as it enters into the Great Tribulation period, and there's also the belief among even some of the Catholic mystics that he might be a false Pope, an anti-Pope, somebody who helps give rise to the Antichrist.
I want to share with you guys here statements that show 100% that Pope Francis is not a holy man whatsoever. And what he states should leave every one of you out there that ever thought he was a holy man knowing better. He is saying that a personal relationship with Jesus is dangerous, and that you cannot seek Jesus alone, that you have to do it through mediation with the church. He goes on to state that you cannot do it. There's no such thing as a do-it-yourself Christian or a free agent. Can you believe it? This man's saying this. This man is anti-Christ, against the Christ. He is all about the satanic synagogue that they have created, full of pedophiles and whatnot. This is proof when this man speaks this blasphemy.
He encouraged people to see Jesus as a man who still prays for us. The Pope explained that through his wounds,
e prega. Ma Gesù è uno spirito. Gesù non è uno spirito.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Gesù è una persona, è un uomo. Una persona, è un uomo.
Did Pope Francis perform a miracle in Naples? Well, some claim it's more like a half miracle. On Saturday, March 21st, the pontiff was in Naples, and an unusual thing happened. When the Pope kissed a sealed glass ampule of St. Gennaro's blood, it reportedly liquefied. Cardinal Crescenzo Sepe, the Archbishop of Naples, said, quote, "It is the sign that St. Gennaro loves Pope Francis. Half of the blood turned to liquid."
So the new pope, he's definitely a rock star. He's been on the cover of the Rolling Stone. It's Pope Francis I'm talking about here. And he was also on the cover of The Advocate, which is a gay magazine, so they're big fans of him as well. And he's already done a lot of really controversial things. One of the biggest things he put out there is he said that atheists are going to go to heaven. The atheists will see God. So, essentially there's really no reason to believe in God. Guys, this really shouldn't come as any surprise. We know the Catholic Church has been being exposed for a long time now, in a lot of ways, with all the kid rape, and that's really getting out there.
Now, if you go to the itccs.org site, you'll see over the last number of weeks some tremendous things have been happening. First of all, in Brussels, on April 7th, the Second Common Law Court of Justice session convened. The first one, if you recall, the one that convicted Joseph Ratzinger and Queen Elizabeth for crimes against humanity in Canada, the genocide of Indigenous people there. That led into the second case having to do with global child trafficking. The chief defendants being Jorge Bergoglio, President Pope Francis, Adolfo Pachon, the head of the Jesuits, and Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury in England. I've been working in Europe, in Holland, in France, and in Spain with the witnesses in this case of global child trafficking. Things I've been hearing just completely blew my mind. These eyewitnesses, for example, who sat in on meetings with Jorge Bergoglio planning the child trafficking of political prisoners, the children of those prisoners in Argentina during the dirty wars. Two women who witnessed the serial rape and torture of children by former Pope Benedict and Jorge Bergoglio themselves. According to this thing called the Ninth Circle, which is apparently a child sacrificial cult operating within the Vatican and has for several centuries. And other information related to how this global child trafficking is continuing very much through the Catholic Church and its various agencies. And so it's been not only an amazing time for this stuff to come out, but in response, we've had an increasing number of people come forward. Here in Spain, I've been meeting with two different groups who have been leading a campaign here on behalf of the over 300,000 people who, as children, were trafficked by the Catholic Church here in Spain, where literally the children were stolen by priests and nuns. Their parents were told they had died, and then they were trafficked for between $60,000 and $80,000 each. We estimate the Vatican made over $20 billion over the last 50 years here in Spain alone through this illegal child trafficking. According to not just eyewitnesses who were at these ritual cult murders of children, who saw Bergoglio there, but basically this magisterial privilege, according to documents, is that every pope was being expected, as part of his initiation, to be engaged in these child sacrificial cults, which involve the ritual slaying of newborn children or young children and drinking of their blood, because it evokes a certain spiritual power and control over the human race to do this, according to their sick thinking. And this is something that Bergoglio himself was involved in, according to these two women who witnessed it.
There are secret plans for welcoming. The Vatican will welcome in this alien from another planet as God? Tell me about that.
They're having astrobiology conferences. They've made it intellectually virtuous to believe in these extraterrestrials. Their writings come out of their theologians have pretty much made the argument that if you don't believe in extraterrestrials, then that is actually the heresy. Theologians have written that they think that these entities will be evangelizing us, that they think the chances are that they're not fallen and we are, so that we would have to modify our beliefs according to their revelation. Hundreds of articles from the Vatican astronomers talking about baptizing extraterrestrials.
All these things the Bible says is black and white. They've got to be watered down for there to be a one-world religion, for people to welcome in an antichrist.
There's an observatory complex that consists of 3 very high-powered telescopes. One is the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. There's a radio telescope, and then there's one called the Large Binocular Telescope. This is the most powerful telescope in the world. In fact, they told us they can get better images of space than the Hubble Space Telescope can. Now, attached to this telescope is an infrared camera named Lucifer. Now, what this instrument's used for is astrobiology, for looking for exoplanets, looking for other worlds. And the infrared spectrum is also very useful for seeing things that can't be seen with the naked eye. And many UFO researchers have noted that you can see a lot of ships and entities that you normally can't see.
We also got access to top astronomers that work in Rome, including an astronomer by the name of Guy Cosmonago. He's one of the top astronomers for the Vatican.
What was the major thing you got from that interview with him?
He says, without apology, that very soon the nations of the world are going to look to the aliens for their salvation.
Pope Francis on Thursday urged the downtrodden to change the world economic order, denouncing a new colonialism by agencies that impose austerity programs and calling for the poor to have the sacred rights of labor, lodging, and land.
The Pope's New World Order. Francis calls for the goods of the earth to be shared by everyone, not exploited by the rich at the expense of the poor. For a new economic and ecological world order where the goods of the earth are shared by everyone, not just exploited by the rich. And again, it sounds really good, the rich and the poor are trying to equal it all out, but what he's talking about specifically is a new system. This is the Antichrist system that will rule the earth. This is what he's talking about. He's specifically mentioning the rich and the poor in this. And the prophecy tells us that the rich and the poor will be included in a one world economic system in Revelation 13, 16, and 17 regarding the mark of the beast. And he causeth all, speaking about the second beast, which is the false prophet. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
But this new pope activating and saying we need global government for, you know, the carbon taxes. I mean, I don't know what they got on him or what's going on, but that's got to be decried. People are really showing which side they're on right now. This is the big move. And I mean, there's the headline: Pope Francis calls for new system of global government to tackle climate change. That's not an Infowars.com headline. That's in Time Magazine, Newsweek, the BBC.
Times we're seeing that the world political leader and the world religious leader are leading the world into a unification through the climate change agenda. And this is exactly what the prophecy says, that the Antichrist and the false prophet will be working together. We see that in Revelation chapter 19, verse 20. It says Pope Francis boosts Obama, Clinton, Kerry, and Gore on climate change. June 18, 2015. The papal encyclical released today offers powerful validation and support to the lifetime body of work to protect the environment and combat the dangers of global warming from leading Democrats such as President Barack Obama.
Undoubtedly, they broke with all of Catholic history when they put a Jesuit in 2 years ago. That's against canon law. You can't have the Jesuits, who are the police of the Catholic Church, ever becoming a pope, because they would use it as a coup d'etat. Just like Caesar couldn't bring his troops into Rome because obviously he would make himself a dictator. It's very simple. It's why we have posse comitatus. So these are facts you can't deny. That A, he's a Jesuit, the new pope, the answer a world government to it, with the new Pope now calling for a one world religion to bring everyone together. I mean, either the Bible's coming true, Revelations and Daniel and all the rest of it, and Ezekiel, and what Christ said, or they're using it as a playbook to set up a planetary tyranny. 3 global regions, 10 sub-regions, the 10 kings. This is over the top. And this new Pope is the most naked manipulator I've ever seen. He makes Obama look tame with his deception. People are ready to wake up right now, so spread the word that the good news is this evil has never succeeded before, and it will fall this time, and that this Pope, for all intents and purposes, fits the bill of the false prophet of Revelations.
To you, but if this ain't disturbing, I don't know what is. This is supposed to be Jesus, and I use the word supposed to be. And these people sit around this thing like an idol. And this is a close-up picture of Jesus right here. It's supposed to be Jesus. And I went and looked at it closer. And I don't know about y'all, but this looks like a reptilian head. I mean, look, you got the eyes, and then you got the mouth, and, you know, here the brain, the skull. But this is a close-up picture. Looks like a straight-up reptilian Jesus, and this, I mean, what is this? And going back, this looks like skulls and demons and stuff coming out from the pits of hell. And this is what they sit around.
Flamma Seus, Lucifer matutinus inveniat. Ille in quam Lucifer qui nescito casum, Christus filius tuus, qui regressus ab inferis, humano generis serenus iluxit, et tecum vivit et regnat in saecula saeculorum.
Nature unfolded in a surprising way at the Vatican Sunday. Just after Pope Francis spoke in St. Peter's Square, children released 2 white doves as a symbol of peace. The peace didn't last long. A black crow and a seagull went after the doves in front of the crowd. The birds managed to escape after only losing a few feathers.
That is so unusual.
It is.
It's very unusual.
Probably, maybe from the beginning, there has never been a greater enemy to Israel than Barack Obama. It's incredible the way he treats them, the way he's speaking to them. I think he treats our known enemies much better. How are you supporting this man? He's the worst thing that has ever happened to Israel. Now, what's going to happen is, the way it's going, Iran will have a nuclear weapon. As soon as that happens, and it's very close, as soon as that happens, it's a whole new ballgame.
Presidential candidate Mike Huckabee is standing by his controversial comments, effectively equating Barack Obama to Adolf Hitler. Quote, marching Israelis to the door of the oven with the Iran nuclear
deal with Iran.
He's so naive, he would trust the Iranians, and he would take the Israelis and basically march them to the door of the oven.
That under the Obama nuclear deal, over $100 billion will flow to Iran. Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, so much of that money will end up in the hands of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and other radical Islamic terrorists. And if this deal goes through, the Obama administration will become quite literally the world's leading financier of radical Islamic terrorism. Now, President Obama didn't dispute that. He didn't point to any other entity on earth that would send more money to radical Islamic terrorism. He didn't dispute that billions of dollars in the control of the American government will be used to fund jihadists who will take that money and murder Americans, murder Israelis, murder Europeans.
If Franklin Roosevelt delivered a nuclear weapon to Hitler and $150 billion in ballistic missiles to carry on terrorist attacks against America and the West, what would you call Roosevelt?
Well, that's not what's happening.
Obama, you have to say this man is a Jew hater. He doesn't really care if Israel is absolutely wiped off the face of the earth. I don't care what he says. I don't care how much Iron Dome he delivers. What he's doing is he has his legacy by his own determination is to build up Iran and introduce it into the community of nations when it is worse than Nazi Germany, because Hitler hid the final solution. He didn't shout it from the
Wait a minute. Are you Obama of being akin to
Kerry
Adolf
is,
Hitler?
you know, he's a family member with whatever it is.
David, are you accusing Obama of being akin to Adolf Hitler?
Everything he does is against what Christians stand for, and he's against the Jews in Israel.
You mentioned your Christian faith. Yesterday you took off after the Republicans for suggesting you have Muslim connections. Just a few minutes ago, Rick Davis, John McCain's campaign manager, said they've never done that. This is a false and cynical attempt to play victim.
You know what? I mean, these guys love to throw a rock and hide their hand. Let's not play games. What I was suggesting, you're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that that has not
Christian
come
faith.
My Christian faith.
Obama has gone completely onto the other side. He's now supporting Al-Qaeda. He's supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. He's supporting the Shiites in Iran, even though they're developing nuclear weapons that they could potentially use against Israel. We're no longer fighting radical Islamic terrorism. We're funding it and arming it. We, in a sense, created ISIS. That Obama has supported the Muslim Brotherhood, which is going back to World War II. And the Muslim Brotherhood not signed with Hitler. They've been a radical Islamic destabilizing force determined to destroy Israel and then to destroy the United States.
President Obama making a shocking comparison at the National Prayer Breakfast, equating Muslim extremism to Christianity. When you talk about propaganda, the only thing propaganda does right now is help recruit for ISIS and strengthen the enemy. Let me ask you this. Not only did the president not protect Christians and in fact really go after them, attacking them by invoking the name of Christ yesterday, some would say, but he continued on the path of not calling the enemy what it is, not saying radical Islam. Don't you believe that in not saying that, he's actually protecting radical Islam by not calling it out?
Was moving too slowly, but the fall of Ramadi has galvanized the Iraqi government. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
You can't force the people of Israel, who've just elected me by a wide margin to bring them peace and security, to secure the state of Israel, to accept terms that would endanger the very survival of the state of Israel. I don't think that's the direction of American policy. Meanwhile, there's back and forth with the White House and the State Department saying there may be a change in U.S. policy when it comes to the two-state solution, pushing the UN to pressure Israel to do that. Here's exactly what Prime Minister Netanyahu said before the election the other day about this topic. This is through a translator. Anyone who is going to establish a Palestinian state, anyone who is going to evacuate territories today is simply giving a base for attacks to radical Islam against Israel.
How can you make a peace agreement, a two-state solution, hand over control of the West Bank to a government that includes Hamas, which is not only dedicated to the destruction of Israel, but rules a territory called Gaza, from which it has twice initiated terror wars because it simply will not accept Israel's existence.
The Vatican recognizes Palestine as a state, which Israel isn't happy about. Last month, the Vatican finalized a treaty to bump its diplomatic recognition of the Palestinian Liberation Organization to the state of Palestine. On June 26, the Vatican and Palestine officially signed the treaty into effect.
The Vatican has officially recognized the state of Palestine in a new treaty. The treaty, which was finalized Wednesday but still has to be signed, makes clear that the Holy See has switched its diplomatic relations from the Palestinian Liberation Organization to the State of Palestine.
Pope Francis has met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and called him an angel of peace. The meeting at the Vatican came days after it announced a treaty that makes formal its recognition of the state of Palestine.
Breaking news. Israel National News is reporting an article today about a decision by the United States Supreme Court that is agreeing with President Barack Obama about Jerusalem not being part of Israel, that they're internationalizing Jerusalem. Jerusalem is not going to be part of Israel.
I'll just reiterate what I've said previously. I continue to believe that a two-state solution is absolutely vital. The long-term security of Israel as a democratic and Jewish.
The two-state solution, which is actually mentioned in the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 39, where it talks about the dividing of the land for gain. And this is what we see that Barack Hussein Obama is pushing for with the international community in order to get the two-state solution finalized, as Obama is the mediator, mediating the Antichrist treaty. We see here out of IsraelNationalNews.com, Obama expects Israel to work towards two-state solution on that pressure to get the two-state solution finalized. And that's what Obama's role is in this, is the Antichrist, which is the first beast of the book of Revelation. We see that it's not just the United Nations, not just Obama, not just the EU pushing on this. We also have the world religious leader backing Obama on this. Now, the role of the world religious leader is the false prophet. In the book of Revelation, we see that the false prophet is actually working with the world political leader in order to get the end times agendas going on that deceives the world. And we see in Revelation chapter 19 verse 20, it talks about the beast, which is the Antichrist, working with the false prophet. It says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet. So we see these two working together, and we also see Pope Francis working to push the two-state solution. And we have Barack Hussein Obama working to divide the land for gain, fulfilling the prophecy of Daniel 11:39, fulfilling the role of the Antichrist, working with the false prophet to push for this treaty to get signed.
Look, it looks like Pope Francis and President Obama are in cahoots together to destroy the nation of Israel, to divide it anyway. That the Vatican, ever since Pope Francis has taken over, last year he started this big push for a one world religion. He invited mega pastors, Protestants, Catholic cardinals, Muslim imams, Jewish rabbis, sheiks, geeks, Buddhist priests, Hindu gurus and Maoists and Taoists and everybody else. I mean, and he brought them all to the Vatican last June to pray together to their gods. It's idolatry. He is working on a one world religion. He's working on a one world currency. And now he wants to recognize Palestine as a nation. I can hear in the spirit Jerusalem's cry.
And he has taken an opposite view of Israel, unlike any other president that we have ever had since 1948. His view is anti-Israel. We've never seen that before. So that now, in effect, declared war on Israel from the United States. The reason why, Jan, you and I are talking about this is because we take as true what the Bible says in Genesis about Israel and about nations' response to Israel. We recognize that we have been singularly blessed in the United States because of the way that the United States has blessed Israel over and over from 1948 until recent times. We also know that this isn't a one-sided view in the Bible. The Bible talks about blessing. It also talks about cursing. And we recognize that God is true and his ways are altogether just. If we actually turn our back on Israel, as we are seeing Barack Obama do today, if that happens, then I think we will see a scale and a level of pushback in the United States, negative consequences. I don't know what they are, but I believe that the Bible is true. And I believe that what the Bible says is that our nation and the people of our nation will reap a whirlwind, and we could see economic disasters, natural disasters. The United States does not want to be in that position, and unfortunately, the people put into office Barack Obama, not only once, but twice. And the people have to rise up against his actions and demand that their leaders take steps accordingly.
U.S. Senator and Democratic presidential candidate Barack Obama arrived at the Western Wall on Thursday in the last stop of his 36-hour visit to Israel. Obama was asked to visit the holy place in the early hours of the morning, given the large number of people who visit the wall for morning prayer. Obama read a chapter from the Book of Psalms with the Western Wall rabbi and placed a note in the wall's stones. During his visit to the holiest site in Judaism, the U.S. presidential candidate told onlookers that America loves Israel and the Jewish people and will continue to look out for Israel's security
on a whirlwind 3-day trip to the Holy Land.
Earlier today, he prayed at Jerusalem's Western Wall, the holiest place where Jews can pray. He bowed his head as he touched the wall and left a note inside an envelope in one of the cracks between the stones.
Minutes after, the rabbi recited a psalm that described Jerusalem as a holy city blessed by God. Pope Francis got closer to the wall and prayed in silence.
Today I had a dream this morning, and it was about, I was in New York City. I remember being in New York City. I was on the Empire State Building, on the pointy thing that is up on the Empire State Building, and I was climbing down it. And I got down, and I started seeing all these military people. They were bowing down to this person. They were just praising this person, basically. All these military people were really intrigued by this person, and they were all in their stance like how it was in Hitler's day, where everybody was praising Hitler, and that's how it was in where I was in my dream. And I was like going through the crowds of all these people. It's like I didn't affect them when I was crawling through them, like getting by them to get closer to see what they were all like worshiping. And so finally I get to this big giant stone chair. It was huge giant chair. I literally felt tiny compared to this giant chair, and it was just made of stone, like this rock. And I saw under the chair, there was some reason I looked under the chair, and when I did, I saw something to do with the Pope and Obama. And then after I looked down under the chair and I looked back up, all of a sudden I saw this giant man, and it was Obama. And I woke up after I saw that. People were literally worshiping him. I woke up after I saw that. The first thing I felt in my spirit was that he has now stepped to a higher position, like a higher power. That's why the Lord was showing me him being so big. That's what I got in my spirit. So I really feel like he's about to step up into some higher position, something. That's what I had a dream of this morning.
You look at that man on your screen, Barack Obama. That is a would-be dictator. That is the elite empowering him. You want to see a Stalin or a Hitler? You are looking at the next Adolf Hitler. You are looking at the next Joseph Stalin. He has the spirit of wicked power. He has a spirit of deception. He is highest caliber evil. You know, my father, who never gets into religion, he's Christian, but he doesn't thump the Bible. He doesn't go to mainline church. Well, I guess they go to the Methodist some, but the point is, they're going back to church these days. But he goes to Germany a couple times in the last few years because we have family over there. He said, I recognize where Obama was in his New World Order speech he gave in Berlin because I've been there several times. And he'd come over to my house when he was last there 6 months ago and showed me all these photos of the Pergamon Gate, of the museum that's right there at the Pergamon Gate where the Nazis had the Pergamon Gate. There where Obama gave his speech. And people pointed out that's where Hitler gave his most important speeches, was where Obama was standing. Here he is standing. He chooses where Hitler spoke. Just a few feet away from him is the window and the famous things when Hitler was elected, waving at everybody. Now, right in that building behind him is the Germans, before World War I, went to Babylon, just south of Baghdad today, 30 miles south there. They went to Babylon, and they dug up the turquoise blue gates of Babylon and the Pergamon gate, and inside was the seat of Satan in Babylonian, that they worship Satan. That's where that comes from in the Bible. And the seat of Satan, Hitler believed it gave him power, and they built a big concrete dome over it so the air raids couldn't destroy it. You can't make this up. My neck holds up, and he started reading Revelations to me, and he was talking about the Antichrist. It says will speak from the Pergamon gate and the seat of Satan. And so that's why Hitler spoke there. It's just sick. It's totally sick.
In jeder Stunde, an jedem Tag, nur zu denken an Deutschland, an Volk und an Reich, an unsere deutsche Nation. Unser deutsches Volk siegt ein! Siegt ein!
We all decided to turn in. The bunks were narrow, but the sheets were cool and inviting, and I stayed up late listening to the trembling rhythm of the train and the even breaths of my brothers, and thinking about the stories of our grandfather. It had all started with him, Alma had said. That sounded right somehow. If I could just piece together his story, I thought, then perhaps everything else might fall into place. I finally fell asleep and dreamed I was walking along a village road. Children dressed only in strings of beads played in front of the round huts, and several old men waved to me as I passed. But as I went farther along, I began to notice that people were looking behind me fearfully, rushing into their huts as I passed. I heard the growl of a leopard and started to run into the forest, tripping over roots and stumps and vines, until at last I couldn't run any longer and I fell to my knees in the middle of a bright clearing. Panting for breath, I turned around to see the day turn to night, and a giant figure looming as tall as the trees, wearing only a loincloth and a ghostly mask. The lifeless eyes bored into me, and I heard a thunderous voice saying only that it was time, and my entire body began to shake violently with the sound, as if I were breaking apart.